welcome all, it's Kimani here. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here and you're wondering what my channel's about, to be honest, same, okay? I'm not sure what the direction of my channel is going to be, whether I'm going to focus on like advice videos or like, I'd also love to do some vlogs, not gonna lie. I'd love to do some aesthetic vlogs because I'm not gonna lie, my life needs romanticizing. But for now, in my spare time, whenever I finish a book, I try and create a video on it every single time to discuss the book, share my thoughts with you, and to overall just give recommendations as well. So if that sounds like your sort of vibe, if you're just interested in like cozy conversations about books, then you're in the right place, and I hope you stay to watch the entire video because I'm very excited for what we are going to discuss. The last book that I finished was The Healing Season of Pottery by Yeon Somin, translated by Clare Richards. And guys, I absolutely loved this book. It was so heartfelt, so heartwarming, so relatable. The writing's amazing, but I can't wait to discuss it more in depth. Before I get into it, I would just like to say that this story is quite character driven. It's not really plot driven. So I'm conscious about like spoilers. Like, can you really give a spoiler in a very slow burn character novel? Let me know your thoughts down below. But what I will say is that whilst I will not be going into like the specifics of each of the characters' relationships or like going into their specific histories or anything like that, I will be discussing like some like character moments or like giving a brief overview of the character throughout the story, if that makes sense. So hopefully that should give you an idea of what I'm going to be discussing in this video, because I really want everybody to be able to experience this book themselves. I think it's amazing, and I think it's something best gone in not knowing too much. But let's get straight into it. So, what is the healing season of pottery about? Well, as described by the blurb, burnt out by her job, Jungmin abruptly quits. She worked tirelessly for years, and it's time to make a change. Venturing out into the streets of Seoul, she stumbles upon the Soyo Pottery Workshop. Drawn in by its light and warmth and the smell of clay and coffee, Jungmin feels something unfurl within her. Here, everyone has a story to share, and as the seasons change, Jungmin returns to herself. Pot by pot, plate by plate, Jungmin discovers that as her hands become busier, her mind becomes calmer and her heart opens up like never before. This is a story of new friends and old practices, of finding community, and of what happens when you finally slow down in a fast-paced world. Does that blurb not just sell it for you guys? Like, I remember being in the bookstore. Okay, quick like detail to go into the backdrop of how I picked up this book. So if you had watched my Nettleback video, which was the last book that I read before this book, I made a video on it. I talked about at the end how I was currently reading a book that was quite dull and that I just wasn't into, and that I felt like I was falling into another reading slump. And I remember when I was younger, I was very, very particular about finishing every book I've read. Like, it was a necessity. But as I get older, as work gets in the way, as, you know, as an adult, my life is naturally a lot busier, I would say. I just don't have time, guys. I don't have time to be wasting on a book that I'm not really enjoying. So I'm very much looking at books the same attitudes as I go with a TV show. Like, if I'm not interested in a TV show in the first 2 to 3 episodes, I give it up. I gave this book a chance. I got up to like 100 pages and I was just like, no. I wasn't even interested enough to finish the plot. Anyway, I went to Waterstones. I was looking for a book that would pique my interest, and this immediately drew my eye because, guys, just look at that cover. Like, are you seeing this? There are multiple covers as well. Like, I went online and there are like, I think there are 2 other covers. One is for the American edition, and the other one, I actually don't know what edition it is, but they're both so gorgeous. But yeah, I just love the cover. I read the blurb. I was immediately like, oh my gosh, I need to get this. But ironically, I did not actually get it on the day. I told myself, no, Kim, you cannot spend money on another book. And so I left. And then 24 hours later, I came back and I picked this up. So it did a very good job of convincing me. But anyway, back to the story. As the blurb suggests, it's just about how Jungmin's like mental health journey, her self healing journey, how she overcomes this feeling of inertia, which is where the book starts. So, depression. What is depression? So, as defined by the World Health Organization, it is the state of being in a depressed mood or a loss of pleasure for an elongated period of time. And Jungmin very much displays a lot of the symptoms listed on World Health Organization. You know, she's slightly malnourished and underweight because she's not taking care of herself. She has locked herself away from society. She's been in her apartment for like the past year, literally with no contact with anybody. She doesn't even have a TV in her room. She's not interacting with the outer world. All that she was doing is that she is ruminating on her negative thoughts, her very depressive thoughts. So she's ruminating on her low self-esteem, her low self-worth. You know, she's ruminating on like the past and trauma and her internalized guilt. And all of this ruminates over the past year until one day she just gets up. Like literally, it says in the book that she screams and she gets up, she gets dressed, and she just leaves the house. No purpose. She doesn't know what she's looking for. She just wants to do something. She doesn't want to be in inertia. She doesn't want this depressive state to be her normal. And so she goes out searching for something. What she is searching for, she does not know, and we do not know at this point. But she stumbles across Soyo Pottery Workshop, and this is when her self-healing journey begins. This leads us on to the second part of the novel, which is Jungmin's emotional recovery through the pottery studio. I will say one thing that really like sets apart the Healing Season of Pottery from I think like other works is that, to be honest, the really like depressive stage of Jungmin's life really only lasts for a couple of pages. Literally, I think by the fifth page, she's already out of her bed and she's in search for something, as I said previously, that's other than the situation she's been in the past year, which is her depressive mood. So, she begins taking classes tri-weekly at Soyo Pottery Studio. And through doing those pottery classes, she meets so many different people and she starts to build a community. Johi, the pottery studio owner who used to be famous and has recently lost her dear husband. She meets Jisik, the aspiring professional potter who wants to someday open up his own pottery studio and cafe. Meet Jun, the brooding sort of like high school student who doesn't really have a passion for pottery. You know, there are so many different characters of so many different backgrounds that come to this studio, and they all convene here. And each one of them acts as a catalyst for Jungmin to realize something about herself and support her through her journey at the pottery studio. Another thing that I think sets apart the Healing Season of Pottery from like other works like it is that the side characters are their own people. A lot of the time when it comes to like stories about MC's mental health, a lot of the time it feels like the characters are only there to support the MC in their mental health journey. And once they have served their purpose, there's not really much to them other than what they can do for the main character. Whereas in the Healing Season of Pottery, all the characters have their own little tidbits. They all go through their own trauma. They're all trying to figure out life as they go. It's not like they're all figured out characters teaching Jungmin to be happy. They are regular people who come to do pottery every single week, and through doing pottery, but also build community alongside Jungmin. A moment that I really liked was with Yuri. She is a kid who takes care of the neighborhood cat, and she takes the cat to Jungmin's house for her to take care of. And on the off chance, she just mentions a very like frivolous sort of comment about her family situation. It's not that positive. But through that seemingly frivolous or meaningless comment that she made, Jungmin, it triggered something in Jungmin. It made her remember her own parents and her own family and her own traumas relating to her family network. And through remembering that, Jungmin is also able to offer advice to Yuri, which Yuri, you know, she's a bit of a like a Cinderella sort of character. I wouldn't call it that exactly, but you know, she's very standoffish, but you can tell that like what Jungmin has said to her has really like helped her emotionally or made her look at life via a different perspective. And that's what I love so much about this book. All the characters help other characters in order to see their lives differently in a way that they would not have seen it before, to provide perspective to their own lives. And it is through perspective, it is through having these interactions that Jungmin uncovers so many like past hurts, so many things that she's never really been able to process because of her depression, because of her anxiety, because of her low self-worth. And through doing pottery with other people, building a community, getting good at a skill, she is able to dedicate more of her time to her own emotional state. And through pottery, she is able to find a means to self-healing. And then another thing that I also really liked about this book, I keep on saying that this book is different, but I truly have never like read something similar to this. I have read books like around the themes of like mental health and well-being, but like never like this. I've never found something that's so like on the nose, so blatantly written, sort of obvious, but at the same time extremely heartwarming and extremely relatable, extremely real, if that makes sense. So apologies if I keep on saying another thing that's different, but this book was absolutely amazing. But another thing that I found about it was that the focus on like community and connection. I feel like when it comes to like stories around characters who want to improve their lives, the very much the focus is always on like friendship. You need to go find really good friends who you can depend on. It's like ride or die or anything like that. And while I do feel like friendship is such an important aspect of like mental health well-being, I think also the weak ties that you make, so the community around you, the connections that you have on the day-to-day, also make a substantial effect on your mental health, especially in the current like fast-paced busy world that we live in. It's not always easy to see your family and friends, the people who you dearly care about, every single day. I think there's very few of us, or at least in cities at least, that can say that they see their friends and their family every single day. Whereas the people whom you're seeing often on the day to day are people who you work with, people that you may go to like weekly activities to, like pottery, or maybe you go to church, or like other activities such as that. So it really is that community, those weak ties that are extremely important when you're navigating to this life. And I love how this novel really focuses on that. Jungmin doesn't, not all the characters in the novel are friends with Jungmin. I wouldn't call Yuri Jungmin's friend, but through that connection that they had, they were both able to continue on their lives with a better perspective on their situation. And so I found that a very like heartwarming, a very unique aspect of this story. The emotional payoff in this book, in like the last, like I would say a quarter of the story, is absolutely amazing because you see how far Jungmin has done. So I'm just gonna call this the third act. Essentially, Jungmin goes through this change and renewal. Not just her though, the people around her are also changing. That small window of time where everyone was together, all the people at the pottery studio, it's closing. People are moving on with their lives in order to pursue their own calling. And Jungmin, unlike in the past where she constantly watched people move on and she was stuck in her inertia, in her depression, in her anxiety, she is also moving along with them whilst fully supporting everybody's journeys. And I think that's such an impactful way to like end the book, is that healing and mental health isn't about like constantly being happy or like constantly being comfortable. It's about being able to manage difficulties that come in throughout your life. Jungmin before was not able to handle a lot of like the situations and the anxiety and the really poor sort of like circumstances that she ended up in, and therefore she regressed into that depressive state. Whereas now she is fully embracing the change, not only for like other people but also for herself. She is moving forward to create a life for herself that, yes, may have been different, and yes, it may be a bit scary to be so vulnerable to try something new, but she's going to do it anyway because she's looking for a life of fulfillment. Wherever that might be, whoever it might be with, she is looking for that, and she understands that everyone in her life is also looking for fulfillment, and therefore she wholeheartedly embraces the change. She wholeheartedly moves on, and she finds a path for herself. I'm not gonna spoil it, but the ending is so amazing. Like the specific like place that she finds herself in. Like I remember reading that last page and I was just like, but I'm gonna let you guys experience it for yourself. All you need to know is this third act, Change of Renew, it was really what makes the book worth reading. You get to see the progress Jungmin goes through. Whereas I feel like with a lot of other stories, you like see them like it's very like one dimensional. It's very much like they improve their mental health, but then you see them in the same situation as where they started, if that makes sense, in the same community, in the same location, everything like that. Whereas in this story, everything is changing. It's not like everything stays the same. We don't end the story with Jungmin in the pottery studio. We see her go completely different, and we see the also supporting cast go somewhere completely different depending on their own individual life circumstances and where they're going in life. Because life is about change, and what's really lovely is that the Healing Season of Pottery recognizes that, and it shows like how change is not a bad thing. Change just means different, and with difference can also come happiness. And those are my thoughts on the Healing Season of Pottery. I love this book. It's a story about transformation on the foundations of like love, joy, and just trying to find a life that really aligns with your values and your self-worth. And I feel like this book, oh my gosh, 5 stars out of 5 stars. It was genuinely amazing. It was so heartwarming. Like I said, it was also like very relatable. Like there were parts where I think anyone can relate to. We've all lived life. We all know how like difficult and unpredictable life can be. And there are so many moments where no matter who you are, I think everyone can relate to at least one moment in this book. It's very, very like on the nose, but like in a good way. I really appreciated like the vulnerability that was communicated through the pages. I appreciate the characters that were penned by Somin. Like I appreciate the setting as well. Like Chestnut Burr Village is such like an aesthetic sort of like concept to me. I love the covers as well. Did I mention that already? I think I did. But yeah, 5 stars out of 5 stars. I would highly recommend this book. I would also highly recommend that you read my Substack on this book. Actually, there was this one particular quote in the book that like really inspired me. That really, when I read it, I was just like, oh, I never thought about it like that. And I just love when books do that, when books really make you think and you're just thinking about it for like ages afterwards. Like, I think I finished this book about 2 weeks ago, but I was just ruminating on there and I just kept on thinking, wow, this is such an amazing read, and so much of like how I've felt in the past is so clearly written in this book that I almost feel stupid for not being able to like summarize it myself, my own feelings myself. So yes, I would highly recommend you read it, highly recommend you check out my Substack, highly recommend that you subscribe, like, comment. I would love to hear your thoughts if you've read this book, your thoughts on my channel and where you think the direction should be, what type of videos you like, whether you like my reviews or not. I think your feedback would be really helpful when planning my content, and I would really appreciate anything you guys have got to say. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. The book that I'm currently reading, I'm like, how far am I? I think I'm about a third of the way through. It's a fantasy novel, which ever since I read Fourth Wing, I've been really wanting to like read more fantasy. Usually like the Season of Pottery, sort of like, how would I describe this? It's literally like cozy, sort of like literary fiction about self-healing, about trauma. It's typically the type of books that I go for, but like ever since reading Fourth Wing, I've been more interested in like exploring the fantasy genre. And the book I'm reading, it's really, really good, like fantasy wise. I like the world building so far. I'm not in a reading slump again, guys. I'm actually enjoying the book that I picked out. But I will say that it's quite heavy and like some of like the themes. So like I've only read a third and there's already like child exploitation and slavery and all kinds of things like that. So it's taking me a while to get through because it's just like I need a break every single time I read a chunk. And you guys know, like I'm not like a 15-minute read on the train. I'm a very much like a 2 hour sit down and read. So it's taken me a bit of a while to get through, but I'm loving it so far, and I'm really excited to create a video on it whilst I'm done. In the meantime, if you'd like to see more of me, you can watch my past videos, or you can access my writing on Substack. Any support would be very much appreciated. And that's all I have for today. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.